Hello there, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. It's my first time actually doing this virtually, so bear with me for a second. I'm going to share my screen and start my little slideshow presentation that I have. I hope that everyone is doing great today. Firstly, I kind of wanted to just do another little introduction on myself. Thank you, Christina, for that. I am the uh, founder and owner of MCPR. My name is Michael Corrigan, which is the MC and MCPR. And just so you know, before I launch into social media, just a little background on me, so you're not like, who is this person and why are they telling me about social media and should I even listen to them? Just a little background. I've been doing PR for about 15 years or so now. And I think the thing that I love most about working with brands is what I call the storytelling aspect of my job. And I've really seen the industry change so much, even in the past 5 years. I've always just loved the idea of how and where do people get information, and how do you leverage that to help a brand grow, no matter what the brand is. And I remember when I first got into PR, things were so driven still by traditional media and even print media at that time, at a time, when people were reading things like magazines. And that has just totally shifted into this digital, social media focused world that we live in now. And I've just continued to love that, to kind of evolve and grow with the industry. And, in my experience, I've been agency side, I've been in-house for a really successful brand in Chicago, and now I run my own consulting. I've in my experience, I've worked with a ton of brands, from both local startups and small businesses to global brands. And I love seeing what helps them tick and helps them grow, and to know that what works for someone might not work for someone else, and that's okay. And just kind of a little overview of my services. When I say MCPR, I also call that marketing, content, and public relations. So I do a little bit of everything, still working in that traditional media world, influencer marketing, social media strategy, tactics, events. Now that events are coming back, yay. Kind of things around the gamut. But, why I'm here today is specifically to talk about social media and TikTok in particular. I think before I kind of talk about TikTok specifically, I just kind of want to go on the record and say, I have a love-hate relationship with social media. And that's someone who works in it every single day. I think that you can both hate something personally and respect it professionally. When I kind of go back to that shift that I talked about, social media is an ever-present part of our society now. That is where people get and exchange and receive the information that I was talking about. And that totally shifted. In my eyes, personally, sometimes I get frustrated because I feel like that's why we all sometimes feel addicted to our phones, or sucked into what they call comparative culture, or just feel overwhelmed. And I think that we are so past the idea of social media being just Facebook, or just Facebook and Twitter. It seems like all the time there is a new channel to pursue, new ways to get in front of people, and it can be really overwhelming. As business owners, I think that there's so many hats that people have to wear, and sometimes the thought of feeling like you have to be a regular presence on all social media channels can be exhausting. So, I really wanted to talk about TikTok specifically, because as we're phasing out of this pandemic life, into this new, into this next chapter, I think TikTok is really something that was so of the moment, because while it's been around for 3 years, actually, it was something that blew up in 2020. It was just such a moment that I think, I remember when it used to be just this thing that my younger cousins were obsessed with, and I was like, it's not for me, I'm getting old, I don't get what that is. And then you know, it really was able to leverage the moment of people being home primarily, looking for something to do, looking to distract themselves, and looking to have fun, to escape, and I think that that can be a good part of social media, and I knew that it had reached like mass culture when you saw like actors like Anthony Hopkins like on TikTok like doing things, and it just felt like it was not only something that like friends were posting and things were kind of everywhere, but it was this like ever present entity that was also driving the traditional, news media. For people who aren't familiar with TikTok, it's primarily about creating, sharing, and discovering short videos. And that's, you know, anything from opinion based to tutorials to brand, immersion to silly trends, like anyone who's seen like the countless number of dance challenges or thing, there is, it's meant to be short form as opposed to like a long form, as I would say, like a podcast or a long form video on say YouTube. TikTok is meant to be short and it is meant to be discovered. I think where the true magic in TikTok was, as social media has gotten like more and more and more prevalent, we all hear this word, the algorithm. Facebook owns Instagram. How are we seeing, how are people seeing our posts? How are like, how does advertising factor into the equation? Like there is so much noise out there. And also channels like Instagram have become this like almost polished smoke and mirrors of people sometimes feel like you have to like post things in a certain way and have a certain aesthetic and angle and comment, and it's just draining. And I think that people felt like they were fighting against this viral, fighting against this like formula, whereas TikTok operated under the notion that anyone could go viral at any time. You did not have to be someone with millions of followers to amass getting in front of millions of eyes. And there was almost that like, it was almost like combining social media with the lottery in the sense of like, you could create something that could instantly get seen in front of a ton of people. And I think that knowing that by making those creators using TikTok have the ability to themselves become famous, in a way kind of drives that idea to like be really loyal to the platform and to want to be on it and want to explore it and want to replicate trends and really just be super engaged in this. And even though they, like everything else, have an algorithm, this almost seemingly random nature of it gave people, I think, a much needed reprieve from some of the other social media channels out there, and kind of gave people that notion of like, can I produce something where I'm going to go viral? Can I go from being unknown to famous overnight? And a lot of people saw that. The thing that's interesting too with TikTok, if you ask about it from a business perspective, 2 years ago, I would have said, no, there's no way as a business you should leverage this. Like, this makes no sense to me. And I'm actually going to get into a case study now when I talk about can TikTok work for business, because coming off the year, I actually had a client that it worked really, really well for. So I wanted to walk you all through just kind of a case study. So I work, full transparency, this is a client of mine. I work with a startup brand who's based out of Ohio. Her name's Emily. She owns a brand called Art of Sucra, which is just all about gourmet cotton candy. She had been around since like 2016, super small business, female run, really kind of worked the event circuit, but was all about just cotton candy that had original, delicious flavors, beautiful packaging, and just really kind of understood that side of marketing. So she, in 2020, like us all, was playing around on TikTok. And she noticed that she could take her product, some of her cotton candy, and if she dropped it into a liquid, in this case it was champagne, she could make almost what she called like a drinkable glitter bomb. So like totally, safe to consume, but basically became this sparkly, glittery drink. It went viral. on TikTok, like no exaggeration, like went overnight from being someone who was just an average small business person to now then over having over 1 million followers. The amount of likes she got, it was truly a case of like overnight fame, and not just for somebody who was producing, choreographed dances, but like this was part of their business. And the crazy thing was, she didn't even have that as like a set product. So after going viral on TikTok, she almost like changed her entire marketing strategy to be TikTok driven. So it was like while she was giving her followers, because they were dying to learn how they could also make these glitter bombs themselves, she used it as a way to transition TikTok into being the eyes and ears behind her brand. So she would use TikTok to showcase everything from like team happy hours to planning to touring their warehouse to talking about recipes, etc. And the crazy thing is, because of the viralness of TikTok, she went and had to actually make these glitter bombs as a sellable product. Social media drove her to create a new product because the consumer demand was there. She not only had these viral followers, she started getting her brand picked up in wholesalers across the country in places like Foxtrot. Like, no joke, the Food Network reached out to her because they want to do a show on her. And she literally cannot keep her products in stock. TikTok is her primary form of marketing over traditional media. As a client, I don't even work with her in traditional media because there's no point in putting her in front of traditional media because you can't get her product. Like, I'm basically more of a strategic advisor for her. But it's so crazy to think that not only has TikTok been such an overnight success for her, but in a lot of ways, her brand truly was built on TikTok, which is crazy because that just happened within the past year. And I never thought that I would say that. So I think now that I've kind of discussed that, like, it is possible to use this for business and not wanting to overwhelm those of you who are looking, I'm here to kind of walk you through how I think you should think about potentially using TikTok for your business. Can TikTok work for me is the question. I'm a very visual person, and I like to ask myself a lot of questions. This really kind of like goes into what I say about all of social media. I always say, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I just think that we're so inundated with what I call noise out there, and people feeling like they're posting things because they have to, not because they actually want to, or feel that like they're just, you see people all the time that looks like they're just posting something like without a sense of purpose. And I think that like each social media channel can be used for very specific things. Like, I think that Twitter, for example, is a great means of exchanging information, being an arm of customer service, even sometimes being cheeky with people in like a verbal tone. Like, I love brands like Wendy's and stuff like that on Twitter who are like really funny and sometimes like troll their competitors, and they use that, to their advantage. But when we're thinking about TikTok, like, it's a very specific use, and it is used very differently than Instagram, unless we're talking about Instagram Reels, or Twitter or Facebook. And I think that there's just a couple questions that you should ask yourself as you're like, do I even waste my time with this? Because TikTok was so of the moment, I'm not convinced it's going to be around for the long term. It could be. If I'm wrong, I will admit it, but I'm not convinced it's not going to be something that, as society shifts back out of our homes a little bit more, that it's still going to be top dog. But we'll see. So if you're weighing in your eyes, like, do you think you should be getting involved with TikTok? I always say, well, who are you looking to reach? But it is proven that the majority of people on TikTok are a younger audience. Yes, you see people of all ages using TikTok, but primarily it is for getting in front of younger people, Gen Z, high school kids, etc. And that's not the target demographic for every brand, And I think if you ask yourself that question right off the bat and you say no, well, then you might not want to have TikTok. But if you say yes, or maybe, or I don't know, could be, then I say, like, what is the beauty of TikTok is that it is so visual. So do you as a business owner feel that you have a unique visual story to tell? Is that, If you're a, retailer, is there the opportunity for you to showcase a bunch of different products in a cool, unique way quickly, whether that be on figure if it's clothes, or on display if it's something else, or if you're a restaurant and your chef has like a really unique process of like plating and preparing or whatever, do you think that there is something both extremely visual about your business and also unique? Because I think that while there is a large part of TikTok that is about chasing trends and replicating and doing challenges and things like that, I think the people who sing most are the people who are making it their own. When Emily Art of Sucro went viral, it's because no one was doing that. And people were like, whoa, what is this? So I think you want to ask yourself if you think you have a unique visual perspective to tell. And also, like, do you find TikTok interesting? Because if you don't, that's something to think about. It's like, especially if you like, if we're not sure how long it's going to be around, I always think you should enjoy doing social media and never resent it. And if you think that TikTok is something that is like funny and you just love the vibe of it and you love that it's not as, say, polished as like an Instagram, then I think that's something to think about in terms of exploring. But if just the sheer like quickness and viral nature of it just makes you feel tired, then I think that's something to think about too, and like all things, I always say it always comes down to bandwidth. Like, we wear a lot of hats. We only have so many hours in the day. We're being pulled in a million different directions. If you want to explore TikTok, is that something that, whoever does your social media, do they have the bandwidth to expand and to take that on? Or are you the one who drives all your social media and you feel like, it is something you have the time for, then I would explore it. But if it's just another thing on your laundry list of items that you're like, oh God, what am I even going to do? I don't even have time to eat lunch today. Something to think about, and I think that another reason to explore it is like, are you tired of other social media channels? Are you tired of feeling like you have to put something out there super curated and perfectly polished for Instagram, and you want to try something different and you really want to explore video more, and it's really user friendly and makes it easy to edit and make your own music videos? Like, does that, excite you? And overall, like, social media is meant to uh, amplify the greater marketing purpose for every single brand. So when you're thinking about which channels and or TikTok to get involved with, you might want to ask yourself, is this going to like enhance my brand, or is this going to take away? Because I always tell people, if you know what your primary focus from marketing is, that's always should always be what your focus is. Like, if you are a word of mouth business and you get referrals, like if referral is your main source of customer, of marketing, then customer service needs to be the marketing thing you care about the most, because providing excellent customer service is what's going to get you those referrals. But if you are someone who has had success on social media to date and think you get a lot of customers from it, or inquiries, et cetera, then yes, I absolutely think you should explore TikTok, because it, at least for today, is still extremely relevant and still can go viral overnight. That is something that has been proven, and I think is still true to date. And I think as you continue to think about the voice of social media overall, I think it's okay to acknowledge to yourself that you're not necessarily going to be on every social media channel. And that's okay. I think it's good to know that whatever social media channels you're activating on, TikTok or anything else, that I think what's most important is consistent, knowing your voice and making sure that that is properly communicated consistently across all of your channels. And knowing that no matter how many followers you have, you should have a level of quality that you always hold to yourself. Like, I have some clients that have 350,000, on Instagram, or versus other clients who have 800. And honestly, I tell clients, like, if you have 800 followers, maintain your social media account as if you have 800,000. Because I think that holds you to a level of a standard that you want everyone who is impacting and coming into contact and engaging with your brand is getting the level of quality customer service and experience that you would want them to get from your business in person. You know, at the end of the day, social media is a direct extension of your brand, being an added eyes and ears into the world of your brand. And sometimes it's going to be the first impression of customers of your brand. And you really only have one chance to make the first impression and to make that impression right. So I think that you really have to be mindful of owning that. You know, you hear people say content is king all the time. I think consistency is king, because there is a lot of content out there, and that doesn't mean it's necessarily great. I think, though, you know, consistent and good content is going to far outshine placeholder content any day. I'm a huge advocate of quality over quantity. And I think that knowing that and adhering to that will help you determine how much you want to incorporate social media and TikTok specifically into your marketing needs moving forward. That was the end of my presentation. Do we do questions now, or do I?
Hi there.
Perfect. Hello.
I'm Andrew Miller. I'm the event and marketing manager for the Edgewater Chamber of Commerce, and I'm going to be fielding some questions from Michael. Michael, first, thank you so much for hopping on and explaining, at least to me, what TikTok is. Like you said, it's only the younger people that I know that are using it. A question that I had given to me was, you talk about using different platforms and the importance of consistency. Do you recommend that people have a different voice and tone for the different platforms? Or do you pick a voice and tone and use that throughout?
That's a really good question. You know, I always think that you should have your overall tone for the brand or the business that you stick to, and then you bring each platform as a way, the uniqueness of that platform to bring that brand voice to life. So I think it should still feel cohesive overall. Like if you're, you know, like if you have a kind of cheeky or like funny tone and kind of mess with people on Twitter, like, you know, do I advocate doing, you know, like, should you only do that on Twitter, but then be super nice on Instagram? To me, that feels like kind of a little bit of an inconsistency. So I feel like, you know, you can know what your overall voice is as a whole, and then use each channel as a different way to bring that to life rather than varying it channel by channel, if that makes sense.
It does. You mentioned about having a love-hate relationship with social media, but as a PR professional, do you have a favorite platform personally? And then do you have one that you recommend most as the starter app for folks?
So I'm older. So I feel, for me personally, I love Twitter. I've always just been a really big reader, and I love the exchangingness of information. And I'm also a vocal person, so I love when people are able to like vocalize their brand, especially through a limited number of characters. You know, I do use Facebook and Instagram personally a lot. Those are the ones I probably find myself feeling a little overwhelmed sometimes. You know, and I think the thing that's cool though about social media as a whole is like, this is what I say when I said, like, even if you hate it personally, you have to respect it professionally, because like in my world, there's no way around it. You're either helping clients produce it directly, or if I'm doing more traditional PR for a client, say if I get, you know, a business in a write-up from everywhere from like the Chicago Tribune to like Vogue, you know, Vogue Online or something, most people are probably getting to that article through the media's social media. You know, it's not necessarily from going to, you know, chicagotribune.com or vogue.com. You know, it's like it's the channels that those media outlets have created that are helping that information get in front of people too, you know? So I think that like, while it can be really overwhelming. I think we each as business owners have to figure out a way to make it work for ourselves, because in the year 2021, I just don't think there's any way to get around not using it. And if someone has found a way to not use it and have a successful business, I would love to know.
Do you have any trends or platforms that you predict are going to be the next big thing?
I think, especially kind of like coming off of this past year, like I think people in a lot of ways were feeling really overwhelmed. And I think that there's just going to be kind of this like return to like simplicity a little bit, that I think that we definitely reached a tipping point, especially with things like Instagram, on the like over polished, over produced, just smoke and mirrors of it all, which is why you have channels like TikTok and channels like Instagram trying to replicate TikTok. But the only reason that Instagram Reels exists is because TikTok was so viral. And I think that like now there's kind of like some people approach social media as like, everything under the kitchen sink, like you should be on them all. But kind of going back to like what I said, I think it's going to be about identifying which channels specifically work best for you and really owning those channels instead of trying to be something for everyone on every platform.
Excellent. Is there anything that you're excited about coming up as far as advertising, social media, with everything opening up? Is there an avenue that you think is going to be?
I'm just excited to, like, this is always the time of the year in Chicago and you start getting the like spring, summer weather where you just feel the city gets so excited, because it's like coming off of winter. And I'm really excited to just get to do the things that I really took for granted before COVID and just get to see people more. I am excited for events to come back slowly but surely. I think that that's a great way for people to interact with both, each other and interact with brands. And I'm just, I'm excited for the next few months. Just get out, be vaxxed, which I am, and just live my best life.
Absolutely. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to be with us this morning. I appreciate it.